Adding and subtracting negative numbers. We're going to talk a little bit about it, and then we're going to look at some examples. So if you'd prefer to just skip me and go straight to the examples, then head right on over. So when you are adding and subtracting a negative number, it sometimes helps to think of terms like your life. So if you add something bad to your life, overall that's a bad move. So adding a negative gives you a negative. But if you take something bad away from your life, then that's good. You've taken the bad thing away. So taking away a negative gives you a positive. It's kind of like how the whole two wrongs don't make a right, but two negatives definitely make a positive. So remember that. Right, let's look at some examples. Right, so the rules that we're kind of sticking to, and let me just point out that maths is definitely not all about memorising rules, but sometimes it's helpful to think of rules. The first one is, cool, so if the signs are the same, we add. If the signs are different, we subtract. Okay, so for example, if we start with something like 6 take away negative 3, well, we've got two signs right next to each other. We're taking away negative 3. So in that case, we are going to add. And I would just take all of this, two negatives in the middle, and turn it into an add. So we've got 6 plus 3. Yeah, we know what 6 plus 3 is. That's 9. Here we go. Tick, done. Okay, what if the signs are different? So if we had something like 5 plus negative 2. Now here, the signs are different. I've got a positive and a negative, so I can just go ahead and turn that into a subtract. So I'm going to have 5 take away 2. And now I've made this sum into something which I know about. 5 take away 2, I've got that. It is 3. So signs are the same, they become an add. Signs are different, it becomes a subtract. And it doesn't really matter which way round these signs are. If it was 5 take away positive 2, well, normally we just write that 5 take away 2. We don't show that it is a positive. 5 take away positive 2, it's just the same as 5 take away 2. Now, one little bit where people tend to get confused is if the first number is a negative. So say we're starting with negative 10, and then we're taking away negative 7. Now, the fact that this 10 is negative doesn't really do anything to these two negatives here. This is just your starting point. So our starting point is negative 10. We're starting there. And then these takeaway negatives, they're going to become a positive, but that's a whole different thing happening. So what we end up with is still negative 10. Take away a negative, so the signs are the same. We add plus 7. And then at this point, I would think back to your number line. If you are at negative 10 and you go up 7, you are getting closer and closer to 0. We are now at negative 3. It's the same as if we had something like negative 4 plus negative 2. Okay, so there's two different things going on here. We've got the negative 4. That's just our starting point. We're just starting at negative 4. And then we can think about the fact that we've got plus negative 2 there. So negative 4 doesn't change. Still going to be negative 4. Plus negative 2. Signs are different. We're going to subtract. Take away 2. Now, if we're at negative 4 and we're going down 2, so further into the negatives, we're going to end up at negative 6. And one wee thing to point out is that sometimes people will put brackets around negative numbers just to let you know that they're a bracket and not a takeaway. And don't let that spook you at all. So if you have negative 100 takeaway, and then they might put it in brackets, negative 70. Still the same thing. We've still got, even though this is in brackets, it's take away a negative. The signs are the same. We're going to add. So that part is still the same there. We can make that negative 100, add 70, which will get us to negative 30. We're getting closer to 0. Okay. So hopefully that explains things about adding and subtracting negative numbers a little bit better. Remember, in the future you're going to be expected to do this as part of larger sums, as part of more complicated calculations, so you really need to have that quick recall. This needs to be something that you can do almost intuitively without thinking about, and that will take some practice. So if this is the first time that you've ever seen adding and subtracting negative numbers, I suggest you slow down and practice that for a wee while before going on to multiplying and dividing negative numbers, because it is easy to mix them up. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye!